Yo, guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, back with another video. Here to talk about the Fat Joe openly supporting and openly endorsing Donald Trump's new sneaker line. Hey, Lisa, what's going on? Yeah, Donald Trump has a new sneaker line out right now that is the Never Surrender sneakers. They're like $400, even more, I think. Like 300, $400, mad money basically. And he premiered it at this year's Sneaker Con. And Fat Joe, of course, we know Fat Joe from MTV Cribs, an avid sneakerhead, and a very avid sneakerhead, who has almost every pair of sneakers. So he's saying publicly that he's going out and copping this pair of sneakers. He's never surrenders. And then goes on to justify it and says, "Oh well, I'm not a big Trump supporter. I'm not a Trump supporter. It's not my politics. You know, I just a sneakerhead, and that's what I support. You know, I cop every pair of sneakers. Not how I feel about the person." He goes on to give examples like Andy Warhol, for example. He says, "You know what Andy Warhol was into? Do you know what Basquiat, another famous painter from back in the day, was into? No, you don't. But all you know about is if you like art and you're an connoisseur, right? But I got to challenge Joe on this. This is something different. First of all, even if you are a sneakerhead, these sneakers are ugly. Like, okay, maybe Joe got bred like that, and he just gonna have sneakers just to have them, right? He's gonna have them just to collect them, as he said, a sneaker collector. But the average person, Lisa says they're ugly. Yeah, these sneakers are horrendously ugly. You can have the best trip in the world, and there's nothing that you could get to match with these ugly ass gold sneakers. You know what I mean? These sneakers are golden on the top and red and white on the bottom. Like you need a golden outfit to freaking walk around with this. I don't know who designed this shit, but if he wanted to, and he does, according to uh, Fox News, part of the reason why, and I said this was true when he put out the sneakers, part of the reason why he sees that the black vote is drifting away from President Joe Biden. You know what I mean? Because Biden has mishandled the economy, because the economy is now in shambles because of how he hasn't really he hasn't really addressed black issues. One of the reasons when it comes to the black vote that he's drifting away with the black vote has nothing to do with Donald Trump's sneakers. But the Republicans think it does because they are they think black people are simple minded. They think, oh, we'll put out a pair of sneakers and the black community will get will fall for the bait. You know what I mean? And they're like sheep. But as soon as we put out sneakers, man, they'll go for it. They love sneakers. They're always talking about Jordans. They're always talking about Air Force Ones. You know, all their celebrities like Fat Joe and shit. Even though he's Hispanic, he's not black, but he's in the black culture as far as like a rapper. You know what I mean? They're always talking about sneakers. They're always talking about footwear, fashion. Black people are very much more fashion conscious than white people. You see the way they dress. For example, black people in black music, you'll see uh, expensive name brands like from France, Italy, uh, designer clothes. Dior got a huge boost when Pop Smoke put it in his song. For years now, Tommy Hilfiger got a huge Yeah, Raymond Arroyo, a Hispanic guy at that. Look at that. But, a lot of Hispanics are whitewashed anyway. But the point is, they were all agreeing with him, right? That getting these sneakers would attract black voters. But if you wanted to do that, like say that was true, say black folks was that simple minded and they did fall for something like that. You want to get sneakers that are at least hot. You know what I mean? Sneakers that are at least busting, as the kids say nowadays. You know what I mean? Sneakers that are at least good looking, nice to wear. Not these pieces of shit. This is not going to attract people if people were that simple minded. You want to get nice sneakers. You know what I mean? You want to partner up with a sneaker designer that is innovative. You know what I mean? That has it going on. Not something like this. In fact, he should have went to Fat Joe first. Since Fat Joe was a sneaker expert, Fat Joe could have been like, all right, Donald, you really want to attract the hood? You really want to get the hood on your side? Get this specific sneaker designer to do your sneakers. You know what I mean? But Trump didn't do that. Once again, he tried to do something that he feels like will reach out to the minority voters because he's Trump wants to be the guy that switches the black vote from Democrat to Republican. You know what I mean? Even though he's racist, he has a racist mindset. He sees the black vote as very utilitarian. He sees how he can use it. You know what I mean? So he wants to be the guy that switches the vote. Obviously, we talked about before in the channel how the black vote is like evolution ever since black people have been had the right to vote since after the Civil War, especially in the Northeast and the Midwest. Not so much in the South because of Jim Crow, but in the Northeast and the Midwest, it started off as Republican, obviously, because the Republicans were the party of the anti-slavery party, the abolitionist party, and then by the time of FDR, it switched to Democrat, and then it fully switched over to Democrat in 1968 uh, when the Southern strategists in the Republican Party decided that they were going to cater to white racist voters. And over the years, it's become even more entrenched in the Democrat. Black voters become even more entrenched in the Democratic Party since the election of obviously Barack Obama in 2008, 2012. And then Joe Biden in 2020 gets the vast majority of the black vote. But Trump has been trying to make history by switching it back over, switching it to the way it was in the 1870s and 1880s and 1890s and 1910s and 1920s and 30s. You know what I mean? Before FDR's New Deal, back to Republican. But the way he's going about it is not smart because he's not appealing to genuine black issues. He thinks, and the Democrats think this too. The Republicans are not the only ones. They do this too. But he thinks by appealing to superficial things like sneakers and celebrities, getting Ice Cube on board with the Platinum Plan is the way to attract black voters. You know, now he's going to hear about Fat Joe copping the sneakers, and he's going to try to position Fat Joe's people to endorse him politically. But that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to appeal to black issues, appeal to things that black people are genuinely concerned about. But he can't really do that because he's faced with a very similar conundrum. Now, he could do it economically, but he is faced with the same exact conundrum, the same exact political quagmire that FDR was faced with during the Great Depression. FDR's mission during the Great Depression was to pull black voters in that could vote to switch parties. They even had a slogan. They even had a slogan at that time: turn your pictures of Lincoln aside as you vote for FDR, because obviously most black voters that could vote had pictures of Abraham Lincoln because he was admired because of the Emancipation Proclamation, right? But What FDR was faced with, the problem that FDR was faced with, was the Democratic Party had a base that was poor, white, and racist, hardcore white racists in the Democratic Party at that time, based in the South. They had a liberal wing in the North, and they had a Dixiecrat wing in the South. So FDR's problem was, how do I pull black voters in by addressing their economic issues without addressing the issues of systemic discrimination in the country to alienate my white base? Like, you got a mix of white racists and black people. So that would be a similar thing if a lot of black people decided to switch over to the Republican Party. That would be a similar situation. Is whereas you had these white racists, and then you have a party with a mix of white racists and black people as well, and that would never really work in today's society, because in back then in the 30s, black people could only really vote in the Northeast and the Midwest. The national voting was not a thing for them, and the largest black populations in the country are centered in the South. The exact same area that the white racists are centered into. Lisa says, stop giving them ideas. Okay, yeah, Lisa, but what I'm saying is, what they don't understand is the reason why black voters are pulling away from the Democratic Party, and most want to sit this one out, has nothing to do with sneakers, has nothing to do with celebrities, has nothing to do with the platinum plan that Trump put out, has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It has to do with the fact that during COVID, one incident, and we reported, it's not because Biden is old, Trump is just as old. I mean, that's why a lot of people are pulling away from Joe Biden in general, but I'm talking about race specifically. During 2020, we covered this incident. Remember the incident, and I said it was an incel. It was more of an incel incident. Lisa and I debated on that channel in that video. The Asian salon shooter in Atlanta. When that happened, Joe Biden signed into law an anti-Asian hate crime bill. And he and the Democratic Party, his regime, started to promote anti-Asian, legislation to stop anti-Asian discrimination. And that was one incident. Now, compare that during that same year, 2020, there were countless numbers of incidents, not just George Floyd, but Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta. Countless incidents that happened during 2020, that same year. And black voters in the National Black Caucus and other normal black voters that came out for Joe Biden. The vast majority of his support came from the black community, because he was Obama's vice president, and plus he appointed Kamala Harris, right? They came out like 95% for Biden in 2020. And the black community, the black electorate got nothing. No anti-black hate crime bill. And after that, people were like, man, what the fuck, Biden? You know what I mean? We came out for you. We were the ones in mass who came out for you and who supported you despite COVID. We pushed for you. We campaigned for you. We held the weight. We held the water, not the Asian community. The Asian community didn't do shit for you, but you did for the Asian community. You put the Asian community, because of that shooting in Atlanta, as priority. Meanwhile, your main campaign base was the black community. They were appealing to the black community right and left. They weren't appealing to the Asian community. I didn't see them on Asian talk shows. I didn't see them on Asian um at Asian Buddhist temples speaking. I didn't see them with Asian celebrities out there speaking. The Asians didn't come out for them. The black community came out for them. And the Democrats, did nothing except symbolic gestures. We wanted an anti-black hate crime bill in action, and we didn't get it. That was the point of the protesting. That was the point. I know that, at least. That's my point. That's my point. At least that Trump and the Republicans don't understand why the black community is dissatisfied with Joe Biden. They think it's because he's not young enough, he's not hip enough, he's not appealing to the younger crowd. So they think by giving symbolic gestures like sneakers that's going to do it. But that's not the real reason. That's not the cusp of the reason why a lot of the black voters, that's my point, why a lot of the black voters are moving away from the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. Most people that I know, most Gen Z and millennials of color are not going to vote. Not that they're going to vote for Trump, but they're just not going to vote. And as we saw in 2016, I'm not going to stick completely to the sneakers, at least I'm making a larger point. As we saw in 2016, when the minority community sits it out, I know Biden isn't the one with the sneakers, but my point is neither side gets it. When the minority community sits this one out, when the minority community abstains from voting or votes third party, like we get 2016. We get 2016 when people of color sit it out and they say, I'm not good with either candidate because Hillary Clinton, she put through the crime bill in 1994, which Joe Biden did too, right? And they say, well, she's not doing anything to appeal to us except symbolic gestures like having hot sauce in her purse in the Breakfast Club in 2016. The minority community sits it out. The Republicans get elected. When the minority community comes out, when the black community comes out and the Hispanic community comes out like they did in 2020, 4 years later, the community came out and Biden got elected in record numbers. Now, Biden doesn't do anything for the black community, so they sit this one out. They won't vote Republican. The sneakers and shit, they ain't gonna work. But what will happen is they'll sit it out and Trump will get elected because when your voter base, your hardcore voter base, and the hardcore voter base is really the black community because the Hispanic community could be swayed 50-50, the Asian community could be swayed 50-50, the Middle Eastern community is not riding with Joe Biden at all because of his support for Palestine. I mean, his support for Israel, his unequivocal support for Israel after October 7th. So you can forget about the Muslim community. You can forget about the working class white community because they're 100% behind Trump. So the only thing that the Democrats really have that will keep them in power is the black community, and maybe the Hispanic community if they're concerned with migrants. But a lot of Hispanic Americans are just as fed up with the migrant situation as a lot of black and white Americans. You know what I mean? They don't really look at it like, oh, we're Hispanic, they're Hispanic too. Let's ride with all these migrants. Most Hispanic Americans, they don't want the migrants either. You know what I mean? Because the migrants are coming into the country making shit worse for Hispanic people, right? So the only community you really have backing you up is the black community. But again, if the black community sits this one out, then what? Then Trump wins. Now Trump's trying to sway the black vote, trying to get the black vote with these sneakers, but that's dumb as fuck because sneakers is not enough. We want substantial issues. We want substantial change within the structure of the police, not the abolishment of police. Like I think too that a lot of far leftists when they said um, defund the when the defund the police slogan came out, that was wrongheaded because that came off as like, okay, well they don't want policing in their cities, and the police took it as like, okay, well now we're not going to police their cities, so fuck them, right? But as far as these sneakers, nah, they're ugly ass sneakers. Sneakers are not going to be enough to sway the black vote. And unfortunately, I think in my prediction for the 2024 election, neither side is going to get the black vote this time. Trump, he thinks he could appeal to black people with superficial gestures. So do the Democrats, though. But this time around, they're not even giving them sneakers. They're not giving them nothing. You know what I mean? Because they feel confident enough. They don't have to placate to them because they had to placate to them in 2020 because they didn't get a lot of minorities and black people didn't come out for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and the Democrats knew that's the reason why. That's one of the main reasons why they lost. Putting aside Russian collusion or whatever happened in 2016, but one of the main reasons why Hillary lost, which she failed to appeal to the black community in the way that Obama did in 2012 and 2018. And Biden is making the exact same mistake. He's taking it for granted that he has the black community in his pocket. You can't take it for granted. See, they never take the Hispanic community for granted. They never take the Asian community for granted. They never take the Middle Eastern community for granted, which they don't really care about neither side, because the Middle Eastern community wants certain issues addressed with regards to foreign policy, and they do nothing about it. But with regards to policing, that's important to the black community, and neither side is addressing it. We don't need sneakers. We need police reform. Peace. And Fat Joe and Lisa is saying also people brought up it's crazy how Fat Joe got the sneakers after Trump threw the paper at Puerto Rico during the Puerto Rico. Yeah, well, Fat Joe doesn't really care about Puerto Rico like he claims to care about Puerto Rico. Fat Joe is a greedy opportunist and he cares about himself and his bottom line. I wouldn't be surprised if shit came out about him like came out about these other executives like Diddy and all these other people because he's the type that will stab a friend in the back. Look at fucking Charlie Rock LD. Rest in peace to Charlie Rock LD. He, But yeah, rest in peace to Charlie Rock LD, uh, Fat Joe's former associate, a guy he grew up with in the Bronx. And when Charlie Rock LD got out of jail, he aired Fat Joe out. How he took hits for Fat Joe in prison, going to war with Fat Joe's team and 50's team when the two had beef back in the early 2000s. And then Joe, he gets out of jail. He needs Joe's help, and Joe completely turns his back on him. That's the kind of snake Joe is. We know how he did Pun's family. So I wouldn't be surprised with his political affiliations. Fat Joe does the exact same thing. Anyway, peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button. See you in my next video. It's coming out. Love you guys.